The dusty wind howled across the small frontier town of Dead Man's Creek as the auctioneer's hammer echoed through the square. Sweat glistened on faces, the stench of horses and cheap whiskey mixing in the air. It wasn't cattle being sold that day. It was people. Two girls stood on the wooden platform, their wrists bound, their clothes torn from days of travel and chains. One looked no older than 16, with auburn hair matted in dust. The other, her sister, maybe 19, eyes burning like fire under the afternoon sun. The townsfolk murmured, some with pity, others with hunger. The war had left many orphaned, many desperate. And in the West, desperation had a price tag. Start and bid. $5 for the both, the auctioneer barked, his voice rough from years of shouting. Two healthy girls, strong enough to work a ranch kitchen or whatever you please. The crowd muttered. Some men smirked. Others spat. The girls stood silent, defiant, their gazes fixed on the ground until a gruff voice broke through the noise. $1, said a man from the back. Every head turned. He stood apart from the others, tall, sunburned, wearing a weathered duster and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his eyes. His beard was rough, his stance deliberate. No one recognized him, yet his presence demanded silence. The auctioneer blinked. What did you say, mister? I said $1. The man tossed a silver coin onto the platform. It rang sharp in the still air. Laughter erupted. $1? You think this is charity? A drunk ranch hand jeered. Ain't worth the trouble feed in him. The stranger didn't look at him. His gaze stayed locked on the girls. The younger one trembled, clutching her sister's arm. The older girl, the fiery one, lifted her chin and stared back. Her voice, hoarse but steady, cut through the air. You'll regret this day, she said. Her words silenced the square. The man's jaw tightened slightly, but he said nothing. The auctioneer, eager to end the uncomfortable pause, slammed his hammer down. Sold. $1 for the stranger. Take him. As the crowd dispersed with mocking laughter, the man stepped onto the platform. He cut the ropes from the girl's wrists, his movements slow and deliberate. When he spoke, his voice was low, calm, but something about it carried weight. Name's Eli Harper, he said. I ain't gonna hurt you. The older girl scoffed. Ain't that what they all say? He met her eyes. You'll learn soon enough. Now come on. We got a long ride ahead. The girls hesitated but followed, not because they trusted him, but because they had no other choice. As they rode out of Dead Man's Creek, the sun dipped low, painting the horizon blood red. The town faded behind them, swallowed by the desert silence. The younger sister finally spoke. Why'd you buy us? She whispered. Eli's gaze stayed forward. Didn't buy you, he said softly. Bought your freedom. The older sister let out a dry laugh. Freedom costs more than $1. Depends who's selling it, he murmured. That night, they made camp beneath a lone cottonwood tree. Eli lit a fire, his face flickering in orange glow. The girls sat close together, wary eyes watching his every move. He handed them each a tin cup of water. The younger one, Clara, took it gratefully. The older, Ruth, kept her arms crossed. You from around here? Eli asked quietly. Used to be, Ruth said, till men like you came along. He didn't answer. He just poked the fire with a stick, the crackling flames dancing like ghosts between them. Far off, a coyote howled, then another. The night settled heavy over the plains, filled with silence and unspoken questions. None of them knew that by sunrise, their lives would be tied together, by blood, by vengeance, and by a promise that couldn't be broken. Dawn crept across the plains, turning the ashes of their small fire into gray dust. Eli Harper was already awake, saddling his horse, his movements steady and quiet. The two girls sat a few feet away, wrapped in warm blankets. Clara slept against her sister's shoulder, but Ruth's eyes never left the stranger. She'd spent the night watching him, waiting for some sign of cruelty, some reason to run. But he'd kept his distance, never touched his gun, and given them both more food than he took for himself. That made her even more suspicious. Where we going? She asked finally. Eli tightened the last strap on his saddle. North. I got a place out near the Bitter Creek Ridge. You'll be safe there. Ruth's voice hardened. You think we don't know what happens to girls who stay safe on a ranch? He looked at her then, really looked. His eyes were tired, older than his face. You can believe whatever you need to, he said quietly. But I don't trade in people. Not anymore. Ruth frowned. Anymore. He turned away, cinching the saddlebag shut. Mount up. They rode for hours through open country. Rolling hills dotted with sagebrush, the wind sharp with the smell of rain. Clara smiled at the wide sky, whispering that it was prettier than she remembered. Ruth didn't reply. Her eyes stayed on the horizon, wary of shadows and movement. By noon, they reached an abandoned homestead, a burned cabin, half collapsed, in a field where the earth was black with soot. Ruth's hands tightened on the reins. This was ours, she said quietly. Eli stopped his horse. The world seemed to go still. Your home? He asked. Ruth nodded. Pop built it himself. Then riders came. Said they wanted the land for cattle. When he said no, her voice broke. They lit it up. Took Ma. Took us. Clara's lip trembled. They wore badges, Mr. Harper. Not outlaws. Ranch hands from the north. Eli's jaw clenched. He dismounted, knelt beside the charred earth, running his fingers through the ashes. The wind carried the smell of old smoke and grief. You remember who they worked for? Ruth's eyes hardened. A man named Pike. Said he owned every blade of grass round these parts. Eli froze. He knew that name. He'd worked for him once. Before he left the ranch, before things went wrong. Eli stood slowly. I know Pike. Ruth's hand went to her sister's shoulder protectively. Then you're one of them. Not anymore, he said again, voice low. Not since the day I found out what kind of man he really is. She didn't answer, but for a fleeting moment, her eyes softened just a little. That night, they camped again, this time near a shallow stream. Clara laughed when she saw fish darting in the water. It was the first sound of life since the auction. Ruth watched her sister smile and whispered a silent prayer she hadn't said since before the fire. Eli sat apart, sharpening his knife under the moonlight. His movements were slow, deliberate, not of threat but habit. Every so often, his gaze shifted to the two sisters, watching over them like a man paying a debt to ghosts. When the girls finally slept, he pulled a small, faded photograph from his coat. A woman, smiling, holding a baby. He stared at it for a long time. I'm trying, Mary, he whispered. I really am. From the shadows beyond the stream, a pair of eyes glinted, watching. A match flared in the dark. A man lit a cigar, the smoke glowing orange for an instant before fading. Well, I'll be, a rough voice drawled. Looks like Eli Harper's got company. The man smiled through his smoke, spitting into the dirt. Behind him, 5 riders waited, rifles slung across their backs. Boss will want to hear about this, he said. They turned their horses and rode off into the night. By morning, the hunters would come, and Eli Harper's past would find him again. The storm rolled in just before dawn, black clouds crawling over the plains like bruises. The first drops of rain hit the fire, hissing in the silence. Eli's hand moved instinctively to his gun as thunder cracked in the distance. Then he heard it, the soft thud of hooves. Not one horse. Many. Get up, he hissed. Ruth stirred first, instantly alert. Clara blinked sleepily beside her. What is it? Riders, Eli said. Too many to be friendly. Before they could move, gunfire split the morning air. A bullet whined past Eli's ear, slamming into the tree behind him. He fired back, ducking low. Get to the rocks, he shouted. Go! Ruth pulled Clara toward a line of boulders near the stream. Mud splashed around them as bullets kicked up dirt and water. The smell of gunpowder filled the air, sharp and acrid. Eli returned fire, hitting one rider cleanly. Another fell, screaming into the brush. But there were too many, 6, maybe 7, closing fast. The girls huddled behind a boulder. Clara clutched her sister's hand. They're going to kill us. Not if I can help it, Ruth said, though her voice trembled. Eli dove beside them, blood seeping from a graze on his shoulder. Stay down. Who are they? Ruth demanded. Pike's men, Eli said, panting. They've been looking for me ever since I walked off his land. Why? Eli reloaded. His jaw tightened. Because I was the one who burned his barn. The one he built with the money he stole from your father. Ruth stared. You work for Pike? I did till I saw what he was. I was there that night, Ruth. When your house burned. Her face went pale. Then you. I tried to stop him, Eli said sharply. Got a bullet for it. Pike ordered it done. Said he'd make an example out of your pa. His voice broke slightly. I should have come back for you. I didn't. That's my sin. Ruth's eyes filled with fury. And you think saving us now makes it right? No, Eli said, staring into the distance where dust clouds rose. More riders coming. But maybe it's the only way I can make it mean something. He peered over the rock, fired twice. One man fell. The others spread out, circling. Ruth, he said, voice calm amid the chaos, take your sister and run west. There's a dry creek bed about half a mile out. Follow it till you hit the ridge. Ruth shook her head. Not without you. You don't have a choice, he said, pressing a revolver into her hands. You know how to shoot? She nodded faintly. Then don't miss. He stepped from cover, firing into the storm. The air exploded with thunder and lead. His figure disappeared in flashes of lightning and dust. Ruth pulled Clara away, half dragging her through the mud. The ground shook with hooves. A bullet tore through Ruth's sleeve. She screamed, but kept running. Behind them, Eli fought like a man possessed, moving through smoke and rain, his coat whipping in the wind. He took down another rider before one bullet caught him in the side. He fell to one knee, blood mixing with rainwater. Through the haze, he saw the two sisters climbing the ridge, Ruth turning once to look back, eyes wide with something between fear and sorrow. Then darkness swallowed him. When Eli opened his eyes, it was night again. His hands were bound, his side burning. He was in a camp, Pike's camp. The firelight revealed the man himself, broad, gray-bearded, eyes cold as stone. Well, Pike drawled. Didn't think I'd see the day Eli Harper crawled back to me. You been busy Savon orphans? Eli coughed blood, but said nothing. Pike grinned. Funny thing, two girls came snooping near the ridge. My boys brought him in. Eli froze. Pike stepped aside, revealing Ruth and Clara, tied, bruised, terrified. Looks like you got yourself a family now, Pike said, lighting a cigar. Don't worry. I'll take good care of him. Eli's eyes met Ruth's. She glared at him, but beneath the hatred was something else, a silent plea. He nodded once, and in that moment, a promise was made. Before the night was over, either Pike would die, or Eli would. The first pale light of dawn cut through the smoke of the camp like a knife. Eli Harper's body ached, but he moved silently among the shadows, every breath measured, every step precise. The girls were nearby, tied, but within reach of freedom, if he could play this right. He watched Pike and his men around the fire, laughing, drinking, their rifles leaning against logs. Complacent. That was Eli's advantage. Years on the frontier had taught him patience. He had made mistakes, but today he would fix one. Ruth's eyes met his across the camp. A flicker of hope mixed with anger, and she nodded once, almost imperceptibly. Clara trembled beside her, but her hand brushed Ruth's shoulder, steadying herself. Eli crept closer, rifle at the ready. One shot, precise, quiet, and a guard collapsed into the dirt. The others spun, confusion ripping across their faces. Eli's coat flapped as he fired again, picking off another man before disappearing into the shadows. Get up, he hissed, stepping into the light. Now! Ruth and Clara scrambled to their feet, adrenaline sharp in their veins. Together, they ran toward the trees lining the edge of the ridge. Eli covered their retreat, firing at anyone who dared follow. Pike bellowed in anger, stepping into the open, gun raised. Eli, you coward! You taught me to survive. Eli shouted back, aiming carefully. The two men exchanged fire. Bullets struck wood, splintered dirt, and kicked up clouds of dust. Ruth took Clara's hand and sprinted through the underbrush, using every ounce of speed and cunning she had learned since that cursed auction. The past and present collided in her mind. The fire, the loss of their parents, the hunger, the fear. But now, something else surged through her. Courage. Eli's final shot rang true. Pike staggered, dropping his weapon. The remaining men scattered, realizing their boss was down. Silence fell again, broken only by the heavy breathing of the survivors. Eli rushed to the girls. "Are you both all right?" Clara clutched his coat, tears streaming. "We are now," she whispered. Ruth stood slightly apart, her jaw tight. "It's not over," she said. Eli nodded. "Not for them," he murmured, eyes flicking toward the ridge where more of Pike's men might come. But at that moment, the girls' safety was his victory. They rode together out of the forest, crossing the plains bathed in early sunlight. The golden light painted their path, symbolizing freedom and a new beginning. Hope and fear mingled in their hearts, but the shadows of the past began to fade with every mile. Weeks later, the three of them reached Eli's ranch, a humble cabin near Bitter Creek Ridge. He tended the land, repaired fences, and prepared for the coming seasons. The girls learned quickly, helping with chores, tending the animals, and slowly letting the pain of the past transform into resilience. Ruth and Eli never needed many words to understand each other. Trust had been forged in fire, bullets, and desperation. Clara's laughter returned, a small but vivid reminder that life could bloom even in the harshest places. One evening, as the sun sank low over the plains, Ruth approached Eli. "You really saved us," she said, quiet but firm. "I just did what I should have done long ago," he replied. "I couldn't fix the past, but maybe I can help the future." The girls nodded, understanding that the scars they carried would never fully disappear. But so long as they had each other, they could face whatever came next. Eli looked out over the golden horizon, the wind carrying the scent of grass and wildflowers. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real hope. Not for money, not for land, but for family. A family built not by blood alone, but by courage, trust, and survival. The camera would hold on the three of them. Eli on horseback, Ruth beside him, Clara trailing, the prairie stretching endlessly into the sunrise. A voiceover closes the story, calm and reflective. Some promises are forged in fire, and some lives are bound by courage. The past can wound, but the heart can heal, if we have the strength to fight for what matters most. The music swells, carrying the weight of struggle and redemption. If this story moved you, ride with us again. Like, comment, and subscribe for more frontier tales, where every story is carved from the dust, sweat, and heart of the Wild West. The wind whispers across the plains as the screen fades to black, leaving behind the echo of justice, survival, and hope.